Hello everyone, Greg here. How are you today? This is week 7 and we are going to talk about correlation, and regression will come in the second part of the week. And the first thing that we want to note is correlation and regression are not the same thing. In fact, they're not related that much at all. So the first thing we're going to do is a practice of how to compute a correlation. So I have my SPSS open here, and here's the data we're going to use. So I have a bivariate pair. That means bivariate data. That means pairs of continuous data. And here's what we're going to measure. So you can see I've got age and length of the pinky as data pairs. Okay. All right. So we enter the data into SPSS, and here's the table. So variable 1 and variable 2. And incidentally, it would not matter which one was variable 1 and which was variable 2. Basically, it wouldn't matter which one was on the x and which one was on the y-axis. So I'm going to select Analyze. Then I'm going to select Correlate. Now I'm going to select Correlate, not Regression. Then I'm going to select Bivariate, and as you can see, I have to have both variables in the right side. So I'm going to do that now. And I'm going to leave it on Pearson. That stands for the Pearson correlation coefficient. And all correlation coefficients at this level are two-tailed, so I'm going to leave that two-tailed by default. So there's what it looks like once I get ready to run the analysis. And now I click OK. And we're done. Now the first thing to note is, where is the R, the correlation coefficient? If you notice in the output, it will not say the R, but it will say what is called the Pearson correlation, and that is the number that is 0.961. 0.961. So if you went to the internet and got any one of dozens of correlation calculators and put those two sets of numbers in there, you would get the exact same R, the correlation coefficient. Now, if you notice, right next to the R, there are 2 stars. And here's what that means. In APA, 2 stars means a statistical test is highly significant. That means your p-value is less than 0.05. So your question is, well, what does a p-value have to do with correlation? Well, a correlation can be statistically significant or not. So let's think of it this way. Let's say you feed your child 1 carrot per day and they score 50 on the math test. And then the next day you try a second carrot and they score 60 on the math test. And the third day you feed them 3 carrots and they score 70 on the math test. And the fourth day you feed them 4 carrots and they score 85. Now if you put that correlation into a calculator, you will find that the R is very close to 1. The closer a correlation is to 1 or -1, the closer those points are to a linear relationship. Now we don't know the slope of that linear relationship or the direction of that linear relationship. That's what's done with regression. However, you may have an extremely high correlation between carrots and test scores, but that doesn't mean it's significant, because remember, we're only gathering samples. So to have a significant correlation, the correlation has to be high and it has to be based on enough samples. Now how that all works out mathematically we teach in a longer statistics course, but at this point in time all you have to know is if you see 2 stars next to your correlation, then it'll tell you it's significant at the 0.1 level, which means the probability of a type 1 error is really small, and that's what you want. And if you see 1 star, that means your probability of a type 1 error is less than 0.5, and that's still small, but that's not as small. So keep in mind, the only thing you have to report in correlation, and if you look at those 3 documents I sent you, The only thing you need to report is, I believe, the R, and you always want to put in the sample size. So you want to report the R and the p-value, and there's a way to do that according to APA. So that's all you have to report. There's other things that can be taken from the SPSS output, however, they are not important. So that's our short lesson on correlation, and regression will be next. So let me just bring up a couple more things. Don't forget that week 8 is the big week when we have to write a simulated chapter 3 and a simulated chapter 4. Now, that's a big project, and as I said, if you want to put it into a Google Doc and you want to share it with me long before the time you have to submit, we can work on it together, and we can make sure that that chapter 3 and that chapter 4 simulation from a dissertation is done well. It's rather complicated. It's kind of like your final project. So submit the correlation assignment, and then we will work on Saturday's regression assignment. Okay, everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.